Well, hello and welcome back to another legendary episode of the literally one and only Speculation Alley. It's your boy ABOMB and of course, as always with me, is my brother from another mother, Crypto Dilly. What's going on, man?
Not a lot, man. Been a busy day, ready to get into some speculation about the future of Web3, baby.
Let's jump straight in. So we're talking brands today and sort of how they're utilizing this new Web3 frontier. If they're getting value from it, if the people who are buying the items that are, they're dropping are getting value from it, and so on and so forth. So why don't you just blast off for
Yeah,
us?
so I think it's really interesting. I mean, it's really that conversation of how is IP being used currently in the space. And the way I think about this is a lot of these big brands that are actually coming into the space and then bridging the gap between Web 2 and Web 3. And some brands that really come to mind are Doritos. You have Porsche entering into the space. You have Puma, Nike, Adidas, Tiffany's, and Gucci. Those are the ones that really come front of mind whenever I think of Web 2, really like taking a deep dive into this space. And what's really interesting is the way that they actually build the IP around their brand. So, as we know, I mean, like Doritos, they've taken this Bones character and then they've built out a full, collection around that. And now that's like what marks their brand. They're able to use that character for collaborations, commercials, music videos, whatever they want as their IP that they can market and brand it themselves. And so we're seeing other brands do this as well. Puma is a prime example of like, bringing their mascot to the forefront and then dropping a collection around that. And so I'm kind of like seeing how that works. And one thing that's super interesting about this play for Web2 brands is that they don't have to really worry about like a celebrity endorsement or anything about like what a celebrity may say because they're building around like IP that's almost like a cartoon that they're able to kind of control. And really good examples of that for Web 2 are like Chester Cheeto, Ronald McDonald, Michelin Man, Tony the Tiger. The list goes on, right? And so the way I feel about this space and the direction of IP in it is super interesting, especially whenever you get into like how many of these brands are also using the Bored Ape IP and how that sense of community is built around it. So I'm curious your thoughts of how this IP is being used across these different brands and how you see the future of branding.
I think that's a great question. I'd like to unpack it because I think the Adidas Hertz, right? Though that's a really good example because I think that there's people that love Adidas, they love that company, and they're diehard Adidas fans, right? So at the end of the day, it's interesting to see if there's some of those fans that love Adidas that are also in the Web3 frontier, right? For Adidas, I mean, and I think it's sort of that like fuck around and find out mentality where these brands are coming in here and they're interested, they're curious, and they're finding out like, can we do something here? Are there any of our pre-existing customers, aka fans, in this new frontier that we can identify? And if so, why not do that? Because the analogy that I was talking to you about was like almost like bicycles. I'm sure there's a bicycle company out there that was making bicycles to commute from and to work or whatever the case may be. And then somebody was at the company like, hey, let's do mountain bikes where like you could like shoot down a mountain on one of these things. And the guy's like, nah, it's the dumbest idea in the world. And it's like, well, why not fuck around and find out? Like, let's build one, market it a little bit, and see if anyone would want to buy this, if there's a community out there for this. And sure as shit, there was and there is. So I think that's kind of what some of these brands are doing. They're they're fucking around and finding out, and they're finding their people out there that are on brand with sort of what they're doing in this new frontier. I think it's really cool.
I think that's super interesting because I think there's a couple different ways to really look at this is, you have a lot of these different companies that are entering in the space and, Josh Bobrowski, he was talking about how like NFTs can almost be like a loyalty program. And if you think about that, like if it's a loyalty program like Starbucks where you're able to earn all these stars and then you are able to like, get a free drink or be a part of something so you get stamps or whatever it might be, you may be able to earn stuff, but something you said is that you're not going to be a part of a community. And the other thing too is that there's no actual exchange. Like you can't actually put your loyalty points up for sale and exchange those to somebody else. And so there's a lot of different benefits in that regard. But I think the most, like, I guess the simplest way of thinking about this is a loyalty program for many businesses is very robust and very hard to accomplish. And so it's much easier for a brand to actually just launch an NFT that relates to their brand, allows them to tell their brand story and build that community and have that Discord where they're able to interact with them. Right. And I think that's huge. But then there's also the inverse
Oh
side,
yeah.
right? There's also the inverse side where you have people who are taking advantage of these communities that are already built. So if you have 10,000 Bored Apes or even 30,000 Bored Apes and that IP is leveraged, you're able to build all these different companies. We have Bored Jerky. We have, Arizona Iced Tea, who actually put a Bored Ape on their can originally. And, there's all these different opportunities for these businesses to start up. And I think the most recent example of this that comes to the front of my mind is Ape Beverages with like Ape Water, right? Or Bored and Hungry. Like you're able to build these brands and then you have raving fans around that because they're like, I want a piece of this just because it has the Bored Ape logo on it, or not the logo, but Bored Ape IP.
Right. It's almost like piggyback IPing. Like we used to call it piggyback marketing when I was doing social media marketing with other people and companies, but that's literally what it is. Like you're piggybacking off of this core existing IP. And because there are all these diehard fans or like these folks that are like, I support this because I'm a part of this, ecosystem, it almost like springboards this other project or company, whatever it is. And I think that's a really good example that you just used. I think that is sort of what we are seeing, even with Gucci, right? Gucci with 10KTF, and like they came in and sort of did their own thing with Super Plastic early on, but I think that they've gone further in maybe a little bit like storyline and branding, if you will, with 10KTF and that Web3 sort of marketing scope. So I don't know, man. It's going to be really fun to see more brands jump in and almost have. I don't know if they have to, but I think it would be wise of them to do, and Puma as well, to like be shepherded across the Web3 planes so that they don't step on any of those rattlesnakes
I think that's the big thing. These brands are coming in and they're able to take advantage of the people that are knowledgeable and understand the technology and really be guided through. And if you don't, then you see them usually crash and burn. We've seen several that have tried to launch an NFT project and it's failed miserably. Nickelodeon, you got a bunch of these different NFTs that have launched and it's been a bad mixed bag. So I think entering the space
You
is
didn't
important.
you didn't get the McDonald's McRib, bro?
I did, or the what was the Pepsi one, right? I
You did.
um,
Oh, jeez. The pet wasn't it like a microphone or something? I don't know. It was weird.
I think that's what's really interesting, though.
They didn't get it.
And I think a lot of the leverage of IP is really important. And I think what we see in the future is more brands collaborating and, winning together as opposed to really like trying to push each other down. And I think that's the only way that this space works. But I think the NFT technology is here to stay and being able to actually like have that community and be able to reward holders in a way that makes sense. But not where everything is just like a handout. It's more of like, hey, you get early access. It's that collector's piece where you can actually go to events, you can get these exclusive items, you can be a part of the ecosystem, you get more from being a part of the community. I think that's more the play with NFTs, and we don't need mass adoption for that side of things, in my opinion. I think that mass adoption comes because people see
Yeah.
cool shit that they want to be a part of.
Absolutely. And I also think those brands need a reason to be doing things in this frontier. So I think it's partially, yes, fuck around and find out, but also like, what is their reason? What is their purpose? Like, why are they there? So I think if a brand can answer that and you can have a good enough utility or a reason for being there and you find your peeps, yeah, man, kill it. I'm excited to see him
Heck
come over
yeah.
here.
Well, that's it for this episode of Speculation Alley. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Drop your comment below what you think of the video. Leave us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And then if you're super excited about this content and you want to come join us, this Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Twitter Spaces. We always go down the rabbit hole and talk to the community about what we discussed on this video. So we'll see you guys there, and we'll catch you in the next video. Peace.